He wasn't the hero we wanted, wasn't even the hero we needed. But somehow, he still became #1, double quotes, in the shimmering chaos of My Hero Academia's superpowered society. The word hero is elevated to something divine. A title worn by only the most noble, the most visible, and the most powerful figures in Japan. For years, that role belonged to one man, All Might, the symbol of peace. But when that pillar fell, it didn't crumble. It was replaced. The man who stood at the top of the rubble was Enji Todoroki, known worldwide as Endeavor. This is not a story of triumph. This is a story of obsession, emotional abuse, generational trauma, and one man's descent into infamy. Before redemption can begin, before forgiveness can even be considered, we have to understand the monster beneath the fire, the shadow of greatness, All Might's unattainable crown, Enji Todoroki. This journey began with potential, power beyond most pro-heroes, a fierce determination, and an explosive quirk known as Hellflame. He could create and manipulate scorching fire, making him a devastating force on the battlefield. But that battlefield wasn't filled with villains. It was filled with one name, All Might. Every newspaper, every interview, every rescue mission, every school poster. All Might dominated the stage. And Endeavor, despite holding the record for most resolved cases and possessing elite level. To Enji, it was intolerable. He didn't want to protect people. He wanted to prove he was greater than the untouchable icon of peace. This obsession became more than personal. It became pathological. The only thing I ever cared about was surpassing All Might. That was my goal. My pride, my purpose. This wasn't about justice. It was ego and flames. And when Endeavor couldn't accomplish this through his own body, he turned toward the future, the birth of a legacy, Quirk marriage, and Shoto's creation endeavors. Quest to surpass All Might took a dark turn, a genetic one. Realizing he couldn't beat All Might directly, arranged a strategic marriage with Rei Hamura, a woman from a cold-based Quirk lineage. This wasn't about romance, wasn't. About companionship. It was about creating the ultimate child, someone who could combine fire and ice, and achieve what Endeavor never could. From this twisted union came Shoto Todoroki. Shoto wasn't raised like a son. He was trained like a weapon. From age 5. Endeavor subjected him to brutal daily regimens, isolating him from his siblings and obsessively cultivating his combat abilities. He burned the word greatness into Shoto's identity and forbade him from using the right side of his quirk, the one inherited from his mother. Endeavor didn't just mold Shoto's power, he molded his trauma, Rei Todoroki, a marriage. Of ice and suffering, Rei Hamura wasn't just a wife, she was a solution. Endeavor arranged their marriage with one clear goal: to breed a child who possessed both fire and ice quirks. From the moment they were wed, Rei's life was redefined. Not by love or partnership, but by genetic expectation. While the media celebrated the union as a merging of powerful hero families, those who looked closer could see the emotional frost settling between them. Rei had ice, Enji had fire, and together, they lived in a house that never truly felt like a home. Over time, Rei became a ghost inside her own walls, a mother stripped of agency, watching as her husband obsessed over Shoto's training, ignoring their other children and imposing inhuman expectations on them all. Her gentle nature began to erode, replaced by anxiety, helplessness, and eventually, fracture. The burned child, Shoto's hidden wound, in one of My Hero Academia's most painful scenes. A young Shoto approaches his mother, desperately. Seeking comfort, a moment that should have symbolized warmth and love, instead, it ends in tragedy. Rei, in a moment of psychological collapse, pours boiling water on Shoto's face, a disfiguring act that left physical and emotional scars. It wasn't rage. It wasn't hatred. It was the breaking point of a woman. Crushed under years of pressure, her immediate hospitalization marked her exit from the Todoroki household, and left Shoto not only injured, but emotionally shattered. He wasn't just rejected by his father, now his mother, too, was gone. and Enji. He didn't show regret, at least not then. His obsession with power had blinded him to the devastation around him. The one child he cared about was now afraid of the world and of his own face. The other Todorokis, Fuyumi, Natsuo, and the boy who vanished while Endeavor trained Shoto into his perfect successor. The remaining Todoroki children were relegated to background roles. Emotionally neglected and often forgotten by their father, Fuyumi, Todoroki's eldest daughter, Yumi tried desperately to glue the broken family back together. After Rei was hospitalized, she assumed a maternal role, caring for Shoto and Natsuo, cooking meals, cleaning, and inviting her father to reconnect. Despite her efforts, Fuyumi couldn't bridge the gap. Her father rarely engaged with her beyond surface-level interaction. Her optimism often felt tragic, a woman believing she could fix what had never worked. Natsuo Todoroki, there was Natsuo, the middle son, and perhaps the most emotionally raw of the siblings. He didn't hide his resentment. Natsuo openly condemned Endeavor for the abuse inflicted on Shoto and Rei, and for ignoring Tuya's pain. Even as his father attempted to change later in the story, Natsuo refused to forgive him and made it clear that redemption without true accountability meant nothing. You think you can erase everything with a few good deeds? You think we're supposed to forget? Natsuo represented the angry conscience, the voice many fans identified with, because sometimes pain doesn't fade, it festers. Tuya Todoroki, the forgotten firstborn Twa, was Endeavor's original. Hope, a child born with a flame-based quirk even stronger than Enji's own. But there was a problem. Tuya's body couldn't endure it. The flames he wielded exceeded his skin's tolerance. Instead of helping his son adapt or seeking guidance, Endeavor cast him aside. Tuya wasn't seen as injured or vulnerable. He was seen as a failure. And when Tuya continued to train in secret, driven by a need to earn his father's love, he was met with rejection after rejection. Eventually, he disappeared, believed to have died in a training incident. His body never recovered, but Tuya wasn't gone. He had become something far more dangerous. Asterisk. The ashes speak. Tuya Todoroki returns as Dabi 4 years. Tuya Todoroki was believed dead, a tragedy hidden in the cracks of Endeavor's rigid legacy. His death, the result of fire training that pushed his body beyond its limits, was brushed under the rug. And while the Todoroki family mourned, Endeavor moved on. But Tuya did not die. Instead, pain gave birth to hatred. Hatred gave birth to fire, and in the crucible of abandonment, Dabi was forged. Dabi didn't just become a villain. He became a symbol of everything Endeavor failed to protect, a child twisted by neglect, driven by vengeance, and fueled by flames that would make even Hellflame tremble. He entered the League of Villains, not just to cause chaos, but to dismantle the illusion of heroism that his father clung to. Dabi's philosophy, a new kind of fire unlike other antagonists in My Hero Academia. Dabi isn't driven by ideology or societal collapse. His mission is personal. He wants Endeavor to suffer, not physically, but publicly, emotionally, permanently. Dabi's flames aren't heroic. They're destructive, symbolic, poetic. And when the time came, he did the unthinkable. He revealed his true identity, Tuya Todoroki. During a live national broadcast, what followed was chaos. Footage of Endeavor's abuse circulated online. Hero. Rankings were called into question. Civilians panicked. The Todoroki family was thrust into the spotlight for Endeavor. It wasn't just a PR nightmare. It was Judgment Day, the live broadcast. I am Tuya Todoroki. In one of the most chilling moments in the series, Dabi paints his truth across the airwaves, laughing as he exposes his lineage, the scars that line his body, and the father who denied him love. The world freezes. Endeavor, watching in stunned silence, can barely move. Shoto's eyes widen. Natsuo clenches his fists. Fuyumi covers her mouth. And Rei, watching from her hospital room, sheds a tear that only her son's voice can summon. Dabi didn't need an army. He was the weapon. He destroyed not cities, but legacies. Asterisk Endeavor's silent breakdown faced with the revelation. Endeavor doesn't speak. He doesn't fight back. He breaks. In that moment, he realizes his sins aren't forgotten. They aren't buried. They've evolved. They've matured into fire hotter than his own. And the creature born from his neglect now threatens everything he's built. What's worse, the public isn't on his side. Fans across the anime community debated fiercely. Can a man who created Dabi ever truly be redeemed? Was Endeavor's path to #1 built on lies and pain? Does saving lives now erase the ones he damaged then? Perhaps most pointedly, is being a hero enough when you weren't one at home? Asterisk. Fallout in public responds after Dabi's revelation. Hero society becomes fractured. Trust in pro-heroes declines. Citizens begin questioning the motives. Behind hero rankings, Endeavor faces scrutiny not just as a professional, but as a person. In classrooms, students discuss the ethics of heroism. On social media, debates rage over forgiveness versus consequence. And within the Todoroki family, silence reigns. This isn't just a fall from grace. It's a collapse. Fire as more than power, the metaphor behind the flames in My Hero Academia. Quirks often act as metaphors for their wielder's personality, internal struggles, or thematic purpose. And for Endeavor, Hellflame is more than a combat skill. It's a manifestation of his obsession, his pride, and his pain. Hellflame scorches everything. It's powerful, explosive, hard to control, just like Endeavor's emotions, just like his ambition, just like his parenting. His fire doesn't bring warmth, it brings fear. And for most of his career, Endeavor used this power not to inspire, but to dominate. He saw heroism as conquest, and fire became his crown, earned not through virtue, but through intensity. But as his personal life began to unravel, and as Shoto started defying him, that flame lost its shine. It became something toxic. Something lonely. Flame became legacy. Flame became regret. Legacy built on Endeavor's legacy, both as a father and as a hero, is conflicted. On paper, his stats are unbeatable. Most resolved cases, unmatched battle record, unmatched power. But the foundation of those accolades is built on silence, isolation, and emotional neglect. Where All Might symbolized hope, Endeavor became a cautionary tale, proof that power without compassion leads to hollow greatness. This is reinforced in how other characters react to him. Most younger heroes don't idolize Endeavor. They fear him, respect him maybe, but they don't aspire to be him. Even students like Bakugo and Todoroki recognize that strength alone doesn't make someone a leader, and that more than any blue flame or broken photograph is what makes Endeavor's fall so profound. His legacy doesn't inspire it, warns asterisk emotional accountability. What makes a hero? After Dabi's reveal, Endeavor begins experiencing something unfamiliar: emotional accountability. Not just for the public, but internally. For the first time, he's forced to look in the mirror without justifying his past actions as necessary. Doesn't ask for forgiveness. He doesn't lash out in denial. He begins to unravel. Throughout these episodes, he stops performing. He becomes quiet, less assertive, starts listening, especially to his children. We see this shift in scenes where he allows Shoto to speak freely, where he absorbs Natsuo's anger, and even where he finally visits Rei in the hospital. With open vulnerability, he still hasn't earned redemption, but he's finally starting the work. The line that lingers, "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to atone." This line hits like a hammer, not just to fans, but narratively. It marks a turning point, where Endeavor stops chasing public approval and starts confronting personal responsibility. It's subtle. It's powerful. It's the kind of moment that gives anime its emotional depth. Redemption arcs aren't about erasing pain. They're about carrying it. Fan response and ethical debate. Endeavor's shift toward accountability sparked massive discussion in the anime community. Can someone who's done irreparable harm still be considered a hero? Does saving lives today erase trauma caused years ago? Should fans root for redemption or demand consequence? Some argue that Endeavor's growth is realistic, a man shaped by the toxic expectations of society, struggling to rewrite his day. Own definition of heroism. Others say it's too little too late, that emotional abuse and neglect can't be undone by a few tears or heroic stunts, and that's what makes this arc brilliant. There is no easy answer. It forces viewers to confront their own boundaries of empathy, to ask, what does redemption really look like? Asterisk silence that screams, isolation as a turning point. After Dabi's bombshell reveal, public opinion plummeted. The Todoroki family was thrown into chaos. Hero society reeled. And Endeavor, once burning with ambition, stood alone. This moment marked a profound tonal shift in the series. No longer was Endeavor painted with the hues of dominance and intensity. The flames that once lit his path now flickered faintly around a man steeped in regret. His posture slumped. His voice dropped. His presence diminished. Endeavor was finally still, and in that stillness, reflection bloomed. Isolation didn't weaken him, it exposed him. Internal monologue, the beginning of self-awareness. What makes this chapter of Endeavor's story so compelling is that it's not driven by action. There's no epic battle, no enemy to punch, no crowd to impress. Instead, the conflict becomes internal. A war of memory, guilt, and the raw realization that he might not be a hero at all. We witness him standing quietly in front of family photos, visiting Rei in the hospital and failing to find the right words. Watching Shoto walk away without a glance, his thoughts previously filled with phrases like, surpass all might, now shift toward what have I done? This pivot from external conquest to internal confrontation is the foundation of his redemption. Arc. Asterisk. Shoto's distance. Consequence without closure. One of the most emotionally raw dynamics during Endeavor's isolation is his relationship with Shoto, the son he molded for greatness, and the one most wounded by it. Shoto doesn't offer forgiveness, doesn't lash out either. Instead, he treats his father with careful distance, professional respect, but personal coldness. Their interactions are clipped, functional, necessary only for hero coordination. It's nothing more. And that burns more than any flame. Because Endeavor isn't just losing a son, he's losing the only person who once justified his abuse, the chosen child who no longer validates his existence. In isolation, Endeavor realizes he's not hated. He's not feared, he's irrelevant, and that hits harder than any villain attack. Rei's quiet strength. A mirror with no malice in this arc, Rei begins to find her strength, though hospitalized, though scarred. She begins reconnecting with her children, especially Shoto and Fuyumi, and when Endeavor visits, she doesn't scream, accuse, or collapse. Instead, she sits calmly, offering conversation. It's not reconciliation. This subtle shift in power dynamic is critical. Rei has nothing left to prove, nothing to hide, and her emotional clarity becomes the mirror Endeavor cannot escape. She reminds him, without cruelty, of what he cost her. And by speaking from a place of quiet courage, she forces him to confront truths without defensive armor. It's not dramatic. It's devastating. Moral reflection, atonement versus forgiveness. Endeavor. Isolation plants the seeds of an important philosophical debate. What's the difference between forgiveness and atonement? Forgiveness is something given. Atonement is something earned. And in this period of silence, Endeavor begins to understand he may never receive the former, but he can pursue the latter. He starts embracing pain without expectation, growth without reward, change without applause. It's the first time in his story he stops chasing a crown and starts carrying a cross. Asterisk the weight of the title, becoming number one. Without being chosen, when All Might retired after the battle with All for One, Hero Society didn't hold elections. It didn't nominate a successor. It defaulted, and the default was Endeavor, second only to All Might in terms of stats, achievements, and raw power. But unlike All Might, Endeavor wasn't greeted with cheers. He wasn't hoisted upon shoulders. He was handed the title of Symbol of Peace, not out of love, but out of necessity. And that, more than anything, defined the public shift in perception. Endeavor didn't earn their admiration. He was tolerated. Public skepticism, a flame without warmth early scenes after Endeavor's promotion, show civilians watching him with apprehension. News anchors comment on his performance, but their tone is hesitant. Children glance from shop windows, unsure whether to be excited or afraid. While All Might inspired unity, Endeavor sparked debate. Is he strong enough? Is he morally fit? Does he even understand people? This public doubt creates a unique tension. Rather than becoming a leader, Endeavor becomes a litmus test, a figure through which society measures its values. Heroism is no longer just strength. It's compassion, transparency, accountability. And for someone like Endeavor, it's a foreign territory. The hero showdown versus high-end. Namu Endeavor's battle against the high-end Nomu is one of his most important public moments, a brutal clash that nearly kills him, pushes his flames to their peak, and ends with a shaky but victorious stance. The public watches in real time. They see sweat, blood, vulnerability. And for the first time, they cheer. This marks a critical turning point, not because Endeavor proves his power, but because he proves his will not to surpass All Might, but to protect civilians with everything he has. That final shot of him raising his chart fist is symbolic not of conquest, but of transformation. He doesn't look proud. He looks humbled. Social shift. Media and hero rankings. In the wake of Endeavor's victory, the media begins re-evaluating his role. Articles shift from skepticism to reluctant optimism. Hero analysts start comparing his tactical decisions to All Might's moral leadership. But redemption isn't one battle deep. The Todoroki family drama still hangs overhead, as Dabi's broadcast continues to circulate. Some citizens embrace Endeavor's new arc. Others reject it entirely. Fan polls reflect this split. 42% say he's changing and deserves support. 58% say trauma can't be undone, and power isn't character. This division reinforces one central theme. Becoming number one doesn't mean being right. It means being responsible. Endeavor's speech. I'll walk the path alone in a subdued press conference. Endeavor addresses the public. He doesn't ask for trust. He doesn't deflect blame. He says, "Don't forgive me. Just watch me." This line isn't dramatic. It's deliberate. It affirms his new trajectory, not seeking applause, but demanding accountability. It also shifts the burden away from his past and toward his present actions. For many fans, this marks the point where Endeavor transforms from antagonist to anti-hero, not because he's good, but because he's trying. Shoto Todoroki. From weapon to individual, Shoto was crafted to be an extension of Endeavor's ambition, a perfect fusion of fire and ice. But as he matured, endured, and eventually joined UA High, he began redefining his identity outside of his father's control. His early rejection of fire symbolizes rebellion. He fights with ice only, distancing himself from the trauma linked to his flame heritage. And in that decision, Shoto makes a profound statement. He won't play his father's game, but change doesn't come instantly. It arrives in stages, painful ones. The UA shift, finding his own path. At UA High, surrounded by classmates who value teamwork, passion, and individual expression, Shoto begins to thaw emotionally and strategically. He befriends Midoriya, confronts Bakugo, and slowly reintroduces his fire into combat. Not as an homage to Endeavor, but as a reclaimed tool. The moment he says, "It's my power, not his," it resonates like a declaration of personal sovereignty. He's no longer a creation. It's a character, one with will, conflict, and a purpose outside legacy. Shoto's role in redemption. A mirror and a roadblock as Endeavor starts acknowledging his failures. He reaches out to Shoto, not with authority, but with hesitation. He begins apologizing. He asks for a relationship, But Shoto doesn't leap into his arms. He evaluates, he listens, he resists. This hesitation isn't cold-heartedness, it's realism. Shoto doesn't hate his father outright. He's assessing whether the man standing before him is truly changed, or simply trying to rewrite public perception. And in doing so, Shoto becomes a symbol of emotional accountability. Redemption isn't just earned through strength, it's earned through humility, consistency, and patience. Their conversation, emotional depth over action 1. Of the most understated yet powerful scenes in My Hero Academia is Endeavor. Trying to speak to Shoto, awkward, quiet, unpolished. He stumbles. He doesn't know how to express love. Shoto doesn't help him escape that discomfort. He lets him sit in it, because progress requires tension. And this honest, emotionally restrained dialogue does more for redemption than 1,000 explosive battles. The Todoroki family is learning how to talk, how to sit in pain, how to slowly reach for healing, one word at a time. Breaking generational cycles, the Todoroki story isn't just about Endeavor. It's about every family scarred by legacy, pressure, and broken expectations. Endeavor was a victim of hero culture, one that celebrated power over heart. He passed that trauma on to his wife, his children, and himself. But through reflection, silence, and the slow rebuilding of relationships, the family begins confronting their past. Instead of hiding from it, Shoto becomes the bridge. Not because he forgives blindly, but because he chooses progress over resentment. And that's the most heroic act of all. Asterisk, Shoto's role in redemption. A mirror and a roadblock as Endeavor starts acknowledging his failures. He reaches out to Shoto, not with authority, but with hesitation. He begins apologizing. He asks for a relationship. But Shoto doesn't leap into his arms. He evaluates, he listens, he resists. This hesitation isn't cold-heartedness, it's realism. Shoto doesn't hate his father outright. He's assessing whether the man standing before him is truly changed, or simply trying to rewrite public perception. And in doing so, Shoto becomes a symbol of emotional accountability. Redemption isn't just earned through strength, it's earned through humility, consistency, and patience. Their conversation, emotional depth over action 1. Of the most understated yet powerful scenes in My Hero Academia is Endeavor. Trying to speak to Shoto, awkward, quiet, unpolished. He stumbles. He doesn't know how to express love. Shoto doesn't help him escape that discomfort. He lets him sit in it, because progress requires tension. And this honest, emotionally restrained dialogue does more for redemption than 1,000 explosive battles. The Todoroki family is learning how to talk, how to sit in pain, how to slowly reach for healing, one word at a time. Breaking generational cycles, the Todoroki story isn't just about Endeavor. It's about every family scarred by legacy, pressure, and broken expectations. Endeavor was a victim of hero culture, one that celebrated power over heart. He passed that trauma on to his wife, his children, and himself. But through reflection, silence, and the slow rebuilding of relationships, the family begins confronting their past. Instead of hiding from it, Shoto becomes the bridge. Not because he forgives blindly, but because he chooses progress over resentment. And that's the most heroic act of all. Asterisk, redemption isn't a destination. It's a confrontation. Endeavor's story thus far has been anything but clean. It's jagged, uncomfortable, and emotionally dense. We've watched him rise through obsession, tear through lives with ambition, and quietly begin to understand the scope of his damage. But now, the question that looms over it all, can he be redeemed? Not will he be redeemed, not should he be forgiven, but can he ever deserve it? That's the cliffhanger My Hero Academia leaves us dangling from, and it's the perfect setup for part 2, because redemption isn't about cleaning a slate, about bearing the weight of what you've written on it. Endeavor doesn't want applause. He doesn't expect reconciliation. He doesn't ask for healing. But what makes his arc compelling is that he still tries. Viewer reflection. Can we let go of who he was? This is where anime storytelling intersects with personal psychology. We're asked not just to witness a character's evolution, but to confront our own capacity to empathize. Fans must ask themselves, do we believe that villains can change? Is regret enough to begin atonement? Are apologies valid without forgiveness? The series doesn't force answers. It offers silence. Moments where Endeavor looks away instead of forward. Where Shoto speaks carefully, not passionately. Where Rei listens, but doesn't engage. These aren't emotional payoffs, they're emotional placeholders. Spaces where growth may occur, but hasn't yet earned its spotlight.